Now, Made in SG with Melanie Oliveiro.
Yes, indeed. For fans of Star Wars, they would immediately recognize that brooding theme song from the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. This is Made in SG. I'm Melanie Oliveiro for CNA 938. I can tell you that Angel Velez, the LA-based Hollywood film and TV conductor, conducted that piece that we will always recognize for The Mandalorian character and Grogu as well. Of course, Angel has worked in the entertainment industry on, of course, the Mandalorian TV score, as well as other shows such as Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and Family Guy, to name but a few. Angel Velez has produced high-profile concerts and guest-conducted orchestras around the world as well. Angel also runs the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, which helps advance the art of conducting by providing workshops and access to online resources as well. He's now in Singapore to conduct a one-night-only masterclass, and guess what? It's happening today. It's called Hollywood in Singapore, starting at 7 p.m. Find out in a while what you can look out for. Maybe you can still book a place when it comes to this masterclass today. So let's speak to Angel Velez as well as Alex O, founder of White Noise Music, a recording studio and an audio post-production company providing music and sound design for movies, TV commercials and games, also responsible for today's masterclass. And also there's Karina Lim, film music composer, also from White Noise Music, who joins us here as well. Everyone, welcome to CNA 938. Hello.
Hello, nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hi, thank you for coming down. Before we begin, is there a film score or TV show tune that you'd like to choose as your personal favorite, and why that is so? Let's start with Angel.
No, there's not, because I want to continue working. I enjoy all of them. I had my first degree is in percussion, and I had a professor, and I asked him, I said, do you have a favorite instrument? Because we play so many. And he said, whatever I'm doing at that moment. And I really feel that very genuinely whenever I do something. It's my job to make it the most important thing at that moment. And even if there's something that I'm not a really big fan of, I always find something unique about it because I have to sell it. So I love all of it. It's whatever I'm listening to at that moment is my new favorite thing.
When I played the Mandalorian theme song, I saw that you were visibly moved.
I get associated a lot with Star Wars, and I always feel it's such a very disappointing experience for Star Wars fans because having worked on different parts of it, Mandalorian, I did the live version with the orchestration. So if you were to rent that from Disney, you would get my version of it. Or having conducted stuff from Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Clone Wars. Star Wars fans are a really excited group of people who are incredibly knowledgeable. And I always feel really bad because they ask me all of these detailed questions and I don't have context when I get those clips. So I get it out of order. I don't know what's happening. My son knows the whole story and the narrative. And I always feel incredibly bad and kind of embarrassed. I don't want to let them down in any way.
But you're part of the fabric.
My job is a music mechanic. My job is to help fix or to offer something that's already incredible. So, part of my resume, I'm incredibly honored to be associated with that. But my job is just to make things a little better.
Part of the mechanism. Okay. Alex and Karina?
Yeah, okay. For me, it's the same. I don't really have a favorite. It really depends on. But I would say, the first few scores that when I started to play music instruments was actually John Williams. So of course, that influenced me a lot. And for me, my preference would of course be John Williams. Exactly which scores? I would say probably Superman. Why? Because it kind of makes me feel like I get to fly.
The Richard Donner film one?
That one.
Okay. That one is very rousing.
Yes.
Very impactful. Karina?
Wow, that's always a very difficult question to answer. I think the one that I remember the most clearly was the Harry Potter one, which I guess is also, started with John Williams.
Yes.
But it's always crazy because I think a lot of composers contributed to that over the years. Mm-hmm. And yet it's somehow strung together as one whole franchise. And that always blows my mind. So I love all these varied answers, and we're going to get more answers
from you, but we'll soon talk about that masterclass, of course, being held today in a while. But first, seeing how this program is called Made in SG, let's talk about the quality of film scores and TV theme songs that have come from our neck of the woods, from Singapore so far. We've been putting out films and TV shows for decades. How have we progressed over the years, and are there any standout examples you could give?
I mean, we have like at least 4 different channels, Channel 5, Channel 8, Vasantium, and Surya. Yes. So I can only say for Channel 5 and Channel 8. Well, I would say that most of the theme songs are very music trend based, like whatever that is happening at the moment, like whatever that's kind of top 40, popular, trending, is kind of what we will get for the theme song if we are supposed to write it like now. So the one that really stands out, I'm not sure, but at least the ones that I've seen and follow over the years, they did kind of improve, like with each TV theme song. Yeah. So for films, it depends, because sometimes at least for local films, we do have theme songs, but it's a mixture between theme songs and scores. Yeah. So I can't say that for sure exactly which one. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we've been around for decades. Karina, would you like to have your say as well?
Nothing comes to mind immediately either. I think it is sort of exactly what Alex said. Where
everyone's being very diplomatic today.
It's very
all right.
kind of like trend based, right? And I guess just because it's coming up soon, it's similar to how like every National Day, like the song that comes up is also kind of reflective of what's going on that year, the what everyone's feeling. Yeah. So I kind of feel like that's where Singapore always kind of puts our focus to, like we put on where the trend is, and we kind of want to follow that.
Yeah, I do believe at one point everyone wanted to sound like Coldplay when it came to our NDP theme song. So the trends are being followed. Angel, when it comes to Hollywood, what is the general environment like today when it comes to putting a film score together, conducting it? What do you notice? Are just as many live instruments being used? Is the overall sound stripped down using less instrumentation? Or are there more samples or digital tools being added to the mix as well?
Yes to all of that.
Yeah.
Having a colleague of mine who is at the very top of his career, he's told me something that really kind of reframed my understanding of when I came to Los Angeles many years ago. And he said that we're in the recording business and not the music making business, which, as someone who comes from a traditional classical background, I didn't really understand that. And the goal is to make the highest quality of something with a lot of parameters surrounding it. There's always a budget, there's always a amount of time, there's a amount of musicians, there's all these things. And all these are variables that in the end, my job or whoever's working on it has to solve that. And so because of that, we can, I imagine kind of like how you would buy a car. You, of course, know this is the ideal sticker price, but we can squeeze a little bit from different directions. And so the goal is to always bring about the highest quality in there. Now, there is with the advent of such great technology of pre-recorded sounds, of music libraries, these are wonderful, high-quality experiences. And they're so good now, they can really start to have the audience not really know the difference. And especially if the audience is not used to going to live performances, if the audience is not used to a high-end quality car, you never have to sell or create a high-end sports car. But more than likely, the audience knows something about that, and they can tell you the difference when something just has 4 wheels versus something that can be a high-performance machine. And so for us, it's how can we always provide the highest quality with that? And that is, ideally, we'd love to have a live musician experience. I think we've all fallen in love with that. We've all fallen in love with that emotional experience when we saw Jurassic Park for the first time, when you saw Darth Vader for the first time. All these moments, we've associated that. But our job is usually on the post-production process. There's pre-production and how the film's being made, production, having it made, post-production. All of those have schedules, but the one that is absolutely locked is post-production. We're going to have it released at a certain time, and so usually we're at the very end of budgets. So in order to help solve part of that is we can use synthetic music, we can use pre-recorded sounds, etc. So these composers have to find every possible solution and to make it as good as possible in the amount of time that is possible. And that's one of the reasons why we have Hollywood in Singapore. It's, especially as a conductor, one of the easiest things to do is to have a conductor with no accountability. Is to have, our job is to hopefully have information that we want to convey, that we want to sell and experience and emotion to the audience. But if we don't have specific ideas, we're going to be left to the good intentions of whoever else is in that room. And we want to try to be the one who is leading what the emotional experience is. And so we try to take all of these tools and we try to really introduce it. In the end, we have all these experiences and resources, but in the end, it's an emotional sell. It's an emotional experience. And in the end, it's best and most effectively experienced person to person. But it does not deny the fact that we do have to work with many cool tools and resources and restrictions. So we have to use all of that to have the good quality resource.
So where does artificial intelligence and the film score, how much is that being discussed in Hollywood, especially in the wake of the strikes last year, even though that had more to do with the actors themselves and their own personal copyright? But I'm pretty sure this has been discussed too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tool that we're all trying to learn how to manage because it is going to be implemented more and more. The idea is that, especially the negotiations, that how can we creatively create some kind of boundary? Because someone is inevitably going to help foster the AI, advent of all this great technology. And I think the only best case scenario from my perspective is this buys us a little bit of time to figure out how we can use it to our advantage, as opposed to the inverse of people completely replacing with live musicians. We're at a really unique time where, as I mentioned previously, we have so many great resources of pre-recorded music, etc. There are generations now who are not aware of the difference. So it might be a really easy transition that solves a current financial problem of a budget issue or whatever it needs, music in the background that's not really heard too often. But it's a really dangerous slope, at least artistically, because at some point this pendulum will swing in the opposite direction, but the audience may not be able to recognize the difference. And they're always going to be behind what AI is doing, and AI will lead it. And that could be a very positive thing in the future. We certainly don't know. But as of right now, we're trying to be very aware how we can use it as a tool to maybe make our workflow more efficient, more effective. But ultimately, the bigger reason why we have this experience of Hollywood in Singapore, of how to keep it emotional, how to get people conducting. Why should you conduct? Why should you be up there, hopefully the most intelligent person about that thing that you want to sell and you want to say? If not, you leave it up to others to decide for you. And like many things in life, you better be okay with it to decide for you.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about what's happening today, not so much tomorrow, and AI. Angel, Alex, the Hollywood in Singapore Masterclass is indeed happening today. Before I ask you what's in store for students and those who sign up, Alex and Karina first, are there still places available, seeing how it's happening in a few hours?
Yes, there are still
Yeah, I
places
think
available.
there are still a couple available.
Okay.
We, as part of the whole experience, we wanted the opportunity for them to be able to compose something and then conduct it live.
Yeah.
That, unfortunately, I think you won't be able to do if you kind of come right now. But come on by. Like, come on for like a 3-hour masterclass, have fun with everyone. See a live ensemble play. It's going to be fun, yeah.
So they may not be able to have their individual works worked on today.
Yes, that's right. But
Because-
they'll be able to at least experience the whole masterclass as well.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, the Hollywood in Singapore Masterclass is open really to those who signed up before, budding composers or seasoned professionals too. To clarify, what basic qualification skills, past compositions must they have or have had?
I think they should at least be able to compose or do some scoring. I mean, that's the basic skills that they need. And I think anything beyond that would be extra. But that's what they are coming here for. We are trying to bring their compositions to life. I mean, I speak from experience because 2011, it happened like that. To me, when my score was being recorded and conducted. And we had 4 hours of score that's supposed to be recorded, and they did it in 3 hours. So I thought that's pretty amazing. And the experience that I took from that is when the conductor conducted in a different way, the music feels different. So for me, when I left that place, I left with that experience, and it has been always inside me, and I wanted to share that experience out. So that is also partly what this Hollywood in Singapore is about. And when I went to attend, Angel's, he has this program called LAFCI, Los Angeles Film Conducting Institute, so intensive. And then when I went through that, and this time I'm conducting. So, and I realized the moment my hand moves just a little bit higher or lower, the music feels different, it sounds different. And this is, again, the experience that I had. I want to bring it to everyone. And so that, budding composers or even those composers that already have experience, perhaps they can elevate their current skills, and so that our whole production quality of film storytelling is of a Hollywood standard.
Yeah. But students will need, Karina said, need to compose a 1-minute piece of cinematic music, and there'll be a 14-piece member ensemble available too. So take us through the masterclass proper then. What happens today?
So the first part of the masterclass would be, with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Angel, would kind of talk about all the things we need to know about where, film conducting comes from, what is the mindset we're walking into with this, what's the world it comes from, how does it exist, how do we navigate it, all that good stuff. Okay. And then I think the second part of that would be where we get the participants who, submitted their stuff. We're picking a few of them, and then they'll come up, they'll have their score ready. They will be able to look at we'll have the picture live as well. So then they look at the picture, they look at the musicians, take a deep breath, and go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty intense, yet exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a thrill, really. Yeah.
For sure. Let's talk more about this evening's masterclass. One of the lessons learned is that students will be able to understand the nuances of working with orchestras and film directors as well. Can you give us examples of these? What nuances are you referring to?
Well, I think it's the idea of certainly working with musicians. It's really easy to go on automatic. It's easy to just have automated experiences, and which unintentionally kind of can create a very unintentional kind of subconscious experience. You won't really know the difference. You won't know the difference between a diamond and a cubic zirconium unless you've experienced the difference. And then once you do, you're going to always be the one to insist upon a certain level. So by them practicing physically with the ensemble, it doesn't matter if it's 5 people, 100 people, it's the emotional, engaging experience that we're going to work on. And it's not going to be perfect. It's designed that we can just make a little bit of progress. And anytime we do these workshops around the world, we say it's not just about the 3 hours we're together, but it's about day 4, week 5, month 6, year 7. And that we plant this seed that in the end, we can be the ones to protect this idea of what we want to accomplish. And no one else will demand it. At the very, very least, we're in a very competitive environment with, Los Angeles, London, Prague, hopefully Singapore next. We want to be the ones that are standing at the gate saying this is the level at which we will work and that we insist upon this. So kind of those nuances what we'll kind of start through today, but also to kind of begin a conversation about Singapore and the type of music that we want to hopefully do and associate here.
Okay, let's expand a bit more on that, on these nuances that Angel and I are talking about, Alex.
It's a subtle gesture that your hands kind of do that kind of conveys a response from the orchestra. Because let's say if I were to do it intensely, so the orchestra will be playing according to my gesture. So, but what if I do it a different way? Maybe not so intense, or maybe just subtly. So all these little nuances, and it depends how I kind of move or command. If I know how to command the orchestra, so there's another skill,
Okay.
so which we all need to work on. So in order to bring out a certain feel, and this translates to the the emotional nuances in the film. So, like I said before, I mean, I speak from experience because when we had the score being recorded, I felt connected to the film, and this is what I want to bring through this masterclass with his knowledge and expertise so that we can become better at this. Yeah.
And also people-to-people relationships too. There's so many different personalities in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many. Yeah. Yeah.
For one person to, when you're up there, you've got to take all of that into consideration as well.
I mean, sure, that's the detailed version of how we're getting everyone to interpret the detail of something.
Yeah.
And if we don't come in with a specific idea of what we want, with good intention, it will be interpreted in slightly different variations, and then you'll be able to listen to your recording forever once everyone's gone, and have a really, difficult conversation of, it's so difficult to be aware, to hear. And as I mentioned in the break, I really enjoy watching you work, and I see the timing that you do. And you're hyper aware of all the details that play into this, so that you are the one that is protecting and cultivating the experience of your audience.
That's right.
That's the exact same thing that we want to do. And so if we do our job well, you won't really totally be aware of it, but you will have an emotional reaction to it, and you will be further engaged. I'm sure your goal is, as you've engaged me, is to keep your audience engaged and tuned to CNA 938 all the time. That's the goal.
Yes.
And I want the exact same thing here. And we will know when to jump in and when to elevate a scene. We know when to back off and let the actor have their moment.
Right.
And so this tonight gives the beginning of that conversation. So we plant that seed so that we will become our own kind of cultivators of that level of excellence in which we will insist must have.
So much goes into this. It certainly has many, many moving parts involved. Okay, this is the pop culture question. I've asked other musician instructors, mostly those, what their teaching methods are like and what they think of the American movie Whiplash, which turns 10 years old this year, starring Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, in which a talented drummer is mentally tortured by his teacher to do his best. And Angel, I understand, and you said this just now, the first instrument you started on was the drums.
Yes.
My question is, to what extent does tough love work in this day and age compared to how you were taught during your earlier days?
I have no idea. It's like, I imagine myself as a parent of an almost 10-year-old. I'm trying to think of all the possible resources and options to get them to not only want to eat French fries every day. And I'm trying to, I think anytime we do this, I mean, certainly my experiences and were nothing like Whiplash. It's a fantastic dramatized film, and it's engaging, and you watch and you feel bad for Miles Teller. But I've never had anyone throw a cymbal at me. We've heard experiences of people that were certainly aggressive. But tough love, I teach conducting as your baton is your microphone. Mm-hmm. My goal is not to be screaming the entire time. You could choose to scream, but once you recognize the tool that you have, you adjust naturally. But unless you don't have that experience, then you don't know. And so we try to teach people how to use these tools so that they can have the ability to mold and shape an experience, not only over the kind of surgical process of post-production that can take as much time as we have or don't have, but it could also be instantaneous. We could, at any moment's notice, draw our audience in by becoming quieter, faster, louder. But these are tools that have to be used quite judiciously. And many conductors yell with their baton all the time. What they don't realize is that they're having an interaction with their audience, musicians, but it's really limited right now, because the moment I start yelling, I will get your attention probably for the next few moments. But if I continue it, you will start to probably tune me out, and you'll start to adjust to that. And so we have to know when we're needed, know when we're not needed, to come in prepared, know what we want to say. One of the things we teach about is a little class called Karajan and Streisand, the famed conductor from Germany, Herbert von Karajan, and of course Barbra Streisand. And that they're both from very disparate parts of the music spectrum, but neither would go on a stage without knowing exactly what they want to hear. And because most of us are conductors that are trying to communicate physically, most of us probably aren't dancers. We probably don't have much awareness or even control of what our body is doing, let alone the fine motor skills that we want to do. And so we're trying to just at the very first create awareness so that once you, like many things, once you know the difference, you then have the responsibility to choose hopefully the better path and hopefully to spread, as we jokingly say, the gospel according to John Williams.
Or Angel Velez.
I don't know, but no, not that. We have to do a lot better than that.
Karina and Alex, tough love, has it ever happened, or do you not believe in it?
Well, at least for me, there wasn't any tough love in terms of when I was learning my piano.
Yeah.
So, but I do have friends that they did mention like, oh, my piano teacher just smashed the piano cover on my fingers.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, I'm glad I don't have such a teacher, you know. So, but again, I think it's really important to see the student that is that they are teaching, because I've been teaching before, and to me, I don't believe in tough love. That being said, I'm careful about that, because if you show to that if you don't show, I think you have to strike a balance. It's very difficult to put that balance. On one hand, as a teacher, you want your student to excel. But if they are not interested, or no matter how you do it, like what Angel just said, I mean, you can only yell for a short period of time.
Yeah.
After they tune you out. If it's not working, then okay, maybe it's a hobby, you know, and not, you can't really do it as a profession. And to me, it's more like a show and tell. I would show them what to do, and then okay, maybe you do it. You practice it a couple of times. You need to practice, and if they don't practice, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I've also been very, very lucky to not have had that kind of tough love thrust upon me. I've had very kind of supportive systems, but I also have had many friends and classmates who have had that kind of experience. And for me to see them, I feel like tough love, you know, in when it's done in an intense way that I feel like a lot of us would think of when we think of that. I don't know, I feel like it drills the love of it out of them completely. Like, that's the pitfall you risk, right? Like, that's kind of what you're gambling for. And I've seen so many of them where, you know, technically they're brilliant, right? Because they've been, you know, drilled it, but the whole love of it out. And I don't know, every time I see that, there's nothing more devastating, there's nothing more heartbreaking than to see someone who is so gifted to do this beautiful creative thing, but not have any love for it anymore because of what someone else did to them.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, I'm thankful I've never had tough love, and I guess in that regard, no, I don't really think I would believe that that would be a method for something so creative and something so vulnerable.
All right. Let's talk about another method, creating digital programs during the pandemic. Angel, because you're the co-founder and director of the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, can you tell us more about that? Creating those digital programs during the worst days of the pandemic, where we all couldn't be together.
Sure. We created something called the 2020 New Music Project, because as all of us being musicians, performers in some way, we knew that financially our worlds were shifting really, you know, instantly. But creatively, we were all trying, at one point we were trying to figure out how we could reduce the lag time on Zoom. And we got it down to pretty small numbers, but it was still enough to make a difference. We tried to do things live, and eventually we had to refigure out how to do recordings, and it was a complicated process. But one of the things that we had done, Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, or LAFCI, is now has probably a little over 200 alumni. And these alumni include Grammy winners, Oscar winners, Emmy winners, wonderful, gifted people such as Alex and Karina. And we recognize that music is not going to stop here. This is an opportunity for us to still create. So we created a digital concert. I think that year we're going to do a concert in Okinawa, Japan, which obviously had to be rescheduled. And instead, we did a digital Zoom concert where we had an opportunity to have professionals from all across the world, with the New York Philharmonic, Los Angeles, Hollywood Studio Symphony, Christchurch in New Zealand, London Symphony, everywhere. And we had composers create new music. One of my favorite instrumentation kind of settings was someone who wrote for Parking Garage, because you can't be within 2 meters and you can't have this, restriction. And so someone used the acoustics of a parking structure and said, okay, it's for 5 musicians and you have to be here. And they kind of wrote it playing with the acoustics of that. And so we made it all free for 1 full year because orchestras they could no longer play Beethoven, they could no longer do anything. And so we have musicians who are associated with some of the most creative things that people know through film and television, video games. And so we just made it available. It kept us all creative. It kept us, having an opportunity to still connect when we had no reason to. And it was a lot of fun. And I hope that someone can program the brass quintet for parking structure. It's a worthwhile adventure.
All right, we've got to go to the news. Any last words for tonight's masterclass for those who want to sign up at the last possible minute?
It's for everyone. It's not just for musicians.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, it's fun.
Because as the title says, Hollywood and Singapore, and the reason why I am here, and forgive my jet lag, is because I believe we're having the nascent stages of a much bigger conversation of Hollywood in Singapore. Why can't this be Singapore and Hollywood in a few years?
Sure.
And so I think this is for everyone. Let's be part of the conversation so that we can really share with the rest of the world what I've had the most incredible experience so far in Singapore.
All right.
Yep. Just pop down to the venue and enjoy yourselves. Yeah.
When we sign up online, do we, what sort of payment though should we get ready, or do we go to the venue?
We have an Eventbrite. It's online.
Eventbrite, okay.
Eventbrite, yeah.
All right, okay. But we go to the website first, yeah?
Yeah.
It's there.
Okay. Thank you everyone for being with me.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's been such a joy. Angel Velez, founder of the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, LAFCI. Alex O, founder of White Noise Music, a recording studio and audio post-production company based here in Singapore. And also there's Karina Lim, also from she's from White Noise Music. She's a film music composer. The Hollywood in Singapore Masterclass with Angel at the Yong Siu To Conservatory of Music starting today, 7 p.m. ends at 10 p.m. Sign up at whitenoisemusic.com.sg/Hollywood. This has been Made in SG. I'm Melanie Oliveiro for CNA 938.